Hello and welcome to the show. So many times when we come up with a creative idea for a product or a service, we're solving a problem, filling a gap. That's true of my guests today, Afshin and Sahar Shah. They're creators of an app called Meet Zoy, Z-O-Y. It's a solution to the content issues they were having at story time with their children. They'll tell you all about the app, the inspiration behind it, and how you too can use it as a solution for story time with your children. Welcome to the show, both of you. You and I we've all been emailing back and forth for a while, so I'm glad we finally get to chat and introduce your app to my audience and hopefully to a very large community. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. We are so happy to be here, and I understand you're super busy, so it means a lot to us.
We're also busy right now, right? We're both app developers. My goodness. So good for you. Let's talk a bit about what was happening in your life and the lives of your children that made you start to think. A lot of times the things we create professionally are based on fixing a solution at home. And so let's talk a little bit about just your background. I know you're a software engineer. So this wasn't a big stretch for you, but certainly it's still a lot of work. So let's start from the beginning. Just you thinking that this is a possibility of creating something for your children when you created Zoy.
Yeah, sure thing. I can talk about that if you want. Yeah. So yeah, you are right. I used to be a software engineer, and in fact, I started programming when I was 9. But then, after a while, I realized it wasn't the programming, it wasn't the coding part that I loved about programming. It was mainly the problem solving part, and that's when I decided to switch careers to product management. So now I get to really solve challenging problems on a daily basis and try to come up with solutions and learn like what we can do to solve our customers' problems. So that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years now.
Yeah.
And
well, that'll come in handy building an app.
Absolutely. So that's one of the skills that I bring to the team. But then the rest, I had absolutely no idea. So we ended up hiring an amazing, really passionate team of people. I can talk about that if you're interested. But
yeah, let's talk about that a little later. I want to know first what inspired you.
For sure. Well, where do I begin? So it all started basically when I was there was one night I was reading some stories to my kids, and I just took some moment to really appreciate the quality time that I was having with them. I realized, at night when I read them stories, it's like they get really cuddly and they are calm and they make me calm as well. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is definitely the best time of day for me,
Yeah.
And I just couldn't have enough of it. So that's why, I realized, okay, this is the best time of day for me. And I'm usually naturally curious as well. So I started doing some research. I wanted to know, is it only me, or is it happening around the world, or what's happening? Where is this coming from? Then I realized, there was a research. I realized more than 90% of parents and caregivers, they all had a similar feeling as well, that this is the best time of day for them as well. And then it was kind of interesting. And it was kind of nice.
The other thing too is by some people who don't have that time with their children, if you can create something as you have to make it more fun or more accessible or more in line with how they want to spend their time. So how many children do you have?
We have two.
Yeah.
We have two.
Okay. And how old are they?
Yeah, they're gonna turn 7 and 9 in 2 months.
2 months.
So
yeah.
they're both born in April. So we're the lucky one birthday for both.
Well, those snuggly reading times are it's gonna start to shrink. So enjoy it so much. I'm sure you enjoy it so much, but the time spent with books.
Yeah, the funny thing is that before, when we used to put our kids to sleep, Afshin and I was saying, can you do it? And he was like, no, I'm busy. Can you please do it? But now it's such a therapeutic environment that we are, reading books to them. There is a background music. We are all so calm that when I go to put the kids to sleep, Afshin just comes in and sit there. It's such a beautiful, quality time as a family that we read a story, we talk about it, we laugh, and we giggle. So it's wonderful. Even if it's just 10-15 minutes a day, I have seen a huge improvement in connection between us and the children. And so
I think too, when I think that what I think at reading to my son and reading with my son, who he's 20, going to be 24 next month, I can't believe that, but he's still a big reader. And what I think too is it helped him be a great communicator, because when I would ask him a question, I would ask him an open-ended question, I'd get a really long answer. When he'd come home from school and I'd say, "How was your day?" If that's a closing, could have just said good or whatever. When I asked him, I was prepared to discuss his day. And some of our longest conversations, even after he was grown and I wasn't reading to him at night anymore. I mean, even when he'd come home from college, some of our longest conversations happened at the top of the stairs when he's about to go brush his teeth and I'm about to go into my bathroom, brush my teeth, and we're saying goodnight, but we're still not done communicating for the day.
Right.
So I think having that time at the end of the day, whether it's reading to your toddler or talking with your teenager, you've established a pattern of connection and communication, and you end your day that way.
Absolutely. I think something else that we learned, this is actually something that Sahar noticed, that whenever we read them stories during the day, we notice they kind of whenever they face some sort of a real scenario or problem, they kind of use the skills that they learned from those stories, how the characters actually behave to actually, solve those problems. So it was really interesting and really insightful that they are learning. Yes, we are having fun, we are having quality time, but at the same time, they are learning all of these kind of skills. So that's also another point that we learned before actually we started thinking about all right, we can start Zoy and we can really do this for not only for our kids, but also hopefully, it's going to help other parents as well.
Yeah, and I believe kids learn by examples. Like if you tell them, these are the things that you need to do when these things happen to you, it's so hard for them to understanding and digest it. Even for adults, I think it's the same thing. But when they learn it in a story, they understand the context and they try to kind of have empathy with that character. I think it's a lot easier for them to understand it and do it rather than, telling them, this is XYZ. That's how you need to behave if someone bullies you, rather than this is the story about this character being bullied and that's how
they can insert themselves into the story and have an idea of what that person feels like, and then how to, and also too, when they're a spectator in the story, they can hopefully help someone who's going through that similar situation because they've watched it unfold or read it unfold and now know what their role can be in it. Even if they aren't the target or the victim of this circumstance, they can be the hero in it, the helper.
Exactly. And you brought up a good point, Sahar. I think having empathy is really key as well. I remember we were reading another research that showed EQ now is more important than IQ for to have a more happier, a more successful life, And that's another reason that I believe social emotional skills are super important too. Every week, when we talk to our therapist, every problem or every different scenarios we talk about, she always takes us back all the way to our childhood memories, right? So probably because of something that happened to us or something that we had to learn, but we didn't back then, especially around when I talk about social emotional skills, I'm basically referring to the main categories of understanding ourselves, understanding others, and how we form relationship with others or how we make responsible decisions, right? So it's one of those categories that always is the root cause of the problems that we are facing now. And that's another reason that we realize, okay, so maybe focusing on social emotional skills, especially for children, because it seems all of the problems you're having as adults, somehow they all started when we were younger than 8. So if we could just hopefully solve it, not completely solve it, at least contribute to solving those problems or just teach those skills to those young kids, hopefully the next generation, they're going to be more emotionally intelligent and we could really build a better community in the future.
Most definitely. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the collective people that you brought together to build this app. You having experience as a software engineer, I'm sure you had an idea of what it was going to take, but do we ever really know what it's going to take to create something from scratch? We'll be back. We'll be back in just a moment. We'll introduce Meet Zoy to you all. We are back. My guests today are the creators of the app Meet Zoy. Afshin and Sahar, you've been talking about just your story time with your children and how this inspired you to create the app. So App creation is no joke. My app launched today. You and I connected about the time our apps were launching together. And there's just like this understanding of how much work it is, but it's so worth it. And it's in the details, and it's in the passion and the heart that you put into something. Otherwise, why bother? So let's talk about, you go from reading stories with your children and having that really special time to let's create an app and go through all it takes to do that. How did you make that transition, and how did you start collecting people to help you?
Sure. Do you want me?
We go
Yeah.
ahead. This is your
Yes.
expertise.
Excuse my
Presentation.
PhD. It's all right. So I can talk about it a little bit to just give you more background information in terms of how we started. I think you brought up a very good point. I think first, it always starts with like validating the problem. Does this problem actually exist that we really want to solve? So before we even start thinking about like building that application, we need to make sure we are solving the right problem, right? So that part alone, just doing the research and everything, based on, because both Sahar and I, we are product managers now. So that's the part. I mean, we had these skills, we could just do it ourselves. We started looking at like the research that's already out there. We started talking about, talk to like families around us to really make sure they are basically having the same kind of problems that we are trying to solve. So after doing that, it was all about, all right, what do we do now? So we know the problem is out there. What's the best possible solution? I'm not really a psychologist. I'm not really a story writer. I'm not a comedy writer. What do I do? I mean, one way was I remember Sahara and I, we were just looking at, all right, let's just take some classes and courses to just write a stories. And I'm like, we are already, just, we have 2 kids. We are already working full time. I don't think we can do that. And I mean, realistically, we need to have like hundreds of books. How are we going to do that?
How many books did we order to learn about children?
70 something books. I remember we ordered 70 something books to just learn.
Any books that exist about
Social,
SEL, social and emotional learning, like helping kids, educational books for kids. It was just a lot.
Absolutely.
And
So
then,
where was the connection and the leap between, you could have decided, oh, let's write a children's book that, let's write a series of books. What was the leap from a book or something that you could create, just a special thing for your family, to creating an app that's available to the world?
That's a great question. So it all started with like looking for social emotional books, right? So the books that are kind of related to learning these kind of like skills. And that's when we actually ordered those like 72 books, I believe. And I just wanted to learn all about it, because as an adult, honestly, like till a year and a half ago, I didn't even know like the difference between emotions and feelings, right? So that's one of the things that I learned. And when I don't know about like something basic like that, how am I going to teach my kids about these skills? I ended up like ordering all of those books. So I could learn, Sahar could learn. I mean, she's definitely way better than me, by the way. And we could really teach kids about our boys about these skills. So that's when it all started. And I realized they're really short. They're like 40-50% of them, they were like saying the same thing. I mean, there was no easy way for me to just focus on a single category, right? For example, which one of these do I have to read to my kids if I wanted them to actually learn about self-awareness, or like how to make responsible decisions? It wasn't easy. So I had like 72 books out there. There was no easy way for me to just figure out like which one I have to work on next. And there was no easy way to actually like categorize them or really take advantage of the lessons, right, in these stories. So it was kind of like really difficult. And that's when we started thinking about, all right, let me just search if there are any kind of apps out there. I mean, I've been in technology field for a while now, and I realized there is no single application out there that actually provides me with like the kind of books and the kind of functionality and like a user-friendly application that I can simply look for books that I really need or my kids really need to learn about. So that's when we actually started like thinking about, all right, you know what? There's nothing out there. What if we just build it?
Yeah. And
so Sahar, when you're thinking about building it, what are you thinking about? What are you wanting to include, and what did you end up including? Let's go ahead and skip ahead to what you've actually created with Meet Zoy. And how close is it to what you started out thinking you'd create?
And I think one thing that's it's important, that we were conscious that we are not perfect. And I think one thing you know, we have a character that's called Zoy. She's an elephant, and it's so she's a good representative of our family. She's silly, she's funny, she doesn't know everything, she makes a lot of mistakes. So this is exactly we didn't want to introduce a character that knows everything and is
Right.
perfect. So that's why we have a very strict process of approving each book. So it has to be Beagle tested, psychologists have to approve it, our educators have to approve it, then it's going to be, you know, there is a long process for that. It's good that we started this project knowing that we're not perfect. We really need a team to build a perfect application, and we definitely want this application to have a huge impact in the society. We just didn't want to put something out there that would be just stories and keep the kids busy. That's not what we wanted to do. So we knew that there is something that's missing, that we have to figure out what it is. And I think at that time, when you have quality time with your kids and they're calm, this is the best time that you can teach them something. So
yeah. And so when people log in, so I've downloaded the app and I just want to share with the audience. So when you start with the app, what can people expect? What is the journey like from the start? Just give us a short idea of that.
Do you want to go ahead? And we have
yeah, it's up to you. So basically, after you log in as a user, there are different kind of categories that you can pick from. So first of all, at the top, we have the featured section, and at the bottom, we have editors pick, which are the books that our editors and like team of writers, they thought those are the ones that they really love the most. And then later, based on the different kind of categories, you can see, for example, if you want to learn about social awareness, responsible decision-making, whatever that is, you can just simply look under that category and swipe to the left or right to just look at the library of books we have for each one of those categories. Something else we have that we haven't talked about is Zoy is not really only an application. Zoy is a platform. So Zoy's Storybook app, which is the app that we've been talking about, is the mobile application that we've been talking about so far. But we also have a set of mindfulness and meditation audiobooks that our clinical hypnotherapists actually put together. At the bottom of the page on the home screen, you can see a category called Calm Corner. So when you actually click on one of those stories, it's more for meditation and mindfulness. And also, we have an education center on our website, which is mainly for educators and parents to learn more about social emotional skills. There are some activities, some crafts that they can actually do with their kids.
Yeah, and I think I really highly recommend to start with Zoy series, because the Zoy series really introduced how the Zoy world really works and understand the logic behind it. It introduces all the characters, so that would be a great start.
So there's the Zoy stories plus any books that you recommend in all of your searches of trying to figure out what I could see how at the end of a day, if your toddler or young child had a tough time with this certain thing, that's the idea, right? Then you can make a selection from a story or book that deals with that exact issue.
Absolutely. That's right. You can just pick the books that you like. You can add them to the favorite section, and then you can refer to them later. Also, something to note is, the resolution, because our books, like 99% of our books currently, they are really picture books. So the resolution, the file sizes for those images is really, really high. So you need to have access to the internet. However, there's a functionality that allows you to actually download those books and you can just read them later. Maybe you're at the airport or like flying or like, I don't know. So for scenarios that you don't have access to the internet, you can either read those stories to your kids yourself, or you can just pass them the phone or the iPad and they can start reading it on their own.
I think it looks even good on TV. So to educators, if they want to share it with their, students, that's also work well. I think Katie.
You're right. Yeah, Katie Crawford. Yeah, she's amazing.
She did that. She introduced that to teacher, and I think she received a lot of good feedback from students in the class. So it was very exciting to see that.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we talk, we'll let everyone know where they can find it and give the last bit of details. And we're talking about Meet Zoy, the application. Thanks so much for being here. We'll be back in just a second. I'm talking with the creators of the Meet Zoy app. And I want to make it clear too to the audience that it's not a collection of books that you found that fit these categories. They are books that your team has originally written, and they are within the app under these categories. And you will continue to write more and more stories.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And all of for the subscription, which is right now it's testing out $12.99 a month or $79 a year. And you have access to all of the books. Even as you add more, this subscription doesn't go up once you've subscribed for that amount.
Absolutely. I mean, we hired an amazing team of story writers, comedy writers, psychologists, you name it, voice actors. I mean, they're all like editors, they're all like designers, you name it. I mean, we have like a team of 44 amazing people right now, and they're super passionate, just like us. I mean, that's number one key for us when we are looking to add a new member to our team. We want to make sure they're passionate and they also believe in the mission that we have as a company. So all of them work together because we didn't have the knowledge, we didn't know. I mean, we just provide them with the support they need and help them with, like, when it comes to software development and like building the business itself. But when it comes to actually solving the problem, coming up,
they're the creatives. Yeah.
They are the ones who actually do it.
Yeah, and I think one thing to keep in mind is that the focus of Zoy is social emotional learning, and stories is just one tool that we are using to bring this to children, and we are doing research to discover more tools to be able to help children learn about their emotions. So
well, right now it's available through Apple applications. I have it on my iPad because I'm an Android user, so you can get it on an iPad, but soon it'll be released as well in Google Play Store, so that'll be available. The subscription, you get a 7-day free trial like most apps. And I think it's like anything, if you sign up for something and you really utilize it and your kids enjoy it, for $12.99, I don't know, that's like 2 cups of coffee these days, I think. And you get all this access for the whole month. So I'm really excited for both of you and for your children. They're going to outgrow the snuggly, cuddly reading time with you, but this is a legacy thing you're creating. This will go on long after they're grown and no longer living at home, even reading with you. It's hard to imagine, but it happens. Trust me, it happens. So congratulations to both of you. And I'd love to have you back in a year or so. We can talk about all the new developments and what you've learned through the process. It's not an easy trek creating an app. So good for you for seeing it through.
Sure thing. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and we are looking forward to meeting you again soon and tell you all about the good stuff that's happened at Zoy.
Exactly. Take good care.
Yes.